Hi, Rama. It's week 6, day 3 of our Bible narrative reading plan. Today we're in Genesis chapters 39 through 41. So we have a big chunk of narrative and we're looking at the life of Joseph. Remember that Joseph has been sold into slavery by his brothers. They sold him to a traveling caravan who in turn sold him into Egypt. And he's been sold into Potiphar's house. Potiphar is a leader in Egypt. He's an officer of Pharaoh, is high up, the captain of the guard. And so Joseph is working in Potiphar's house. And we see here in this first section that Potiphar's wife has a sinful lust towards Joseph, and she seeks to have relations with Joseph, and yet Joseph stands strong. We see that Joseph is a man of integrity, and he leaves and flees from the temptation as a living example of what we're told to do, to flee from temptation. And yet he's punished for this. He's thrown into jail. He's lied about. His character is questioned, and he's put into jail. And so we don't normally think of that as being a good outcome. We don't normally think that that's what's supposed to happen to someone who trusts God, to someone who is a Christian. And yet we have to continue with the story of Joseph to see that God has not forgotten Joseph, and God is sovereignly over all things happening in Joseph's life and in your life, and he's working all things together for good for those who love him and who are called according to his purpose. And Joseph is called. God has sent him there, even though he doesn't realize it at this time. So even while he's in prison, he's imprisoned with two other servants of Pharaoh, the cupbearer and the baker. They both have dreams, and Joseph interprets these dreams, and Joseph's interpretation comes true. One servant is restored, and the other is executed. And they're supposed to remember Joseph. They're supposed to let the Pharaoh know about him, but of course they don't. And so Joseph lingers in prison for at least 2 years. And again, this is not what you would think is supposed to happen to the servant of the Lord. And yet we continue with Joseph's narrative. We see that after he's interpreted the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, now Pharaoh begins to have dreams, and they're interesting dreams about cows and the unhealthy cows, the sickly cows, eating and devouring the healthy cows, and yet the sick cows don't look any healthier for everything that has happened. And so Joseph, his name is mentioned to Pharaoh. Hey, it jogs the memory of the one who was freed. And so Joseph goes, the chief baker, he tells Pharaoh and says, look, I know this guy, he interpreted my dreams, maybe he can do the same for you. And Pharaoh calls Joseph, he brings him up out of the prison, and Joseph goes to him, and he does interpret the dreams. He tells him there's a famine coming, and you're going to have 7 years of plenty, and so you need to store up and prepare, because there's going to be 7 years of famine. And Joseph is heard by Pharaoh. Pharaoh listens, and Joseph puts him in charge. And so as we see these 3 chapters coming to an end, we see that Joseph is rising to power here in the land of Egypt, not in the promised land, not where the family of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob are supposed to be, and yet here's Joseph rising to power in Egypt. Pharaoh says, since God has shown you all there is none so discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all my people shall order themselves as you command. Only as regards the throne will I be greater than you. Joseph is second in command in all of Egypt. And again, this is showing that God is working through Joseph to bless his family, as we're going to see, and even the entire earth. Because this famine does come. And we get to the end of the chapter, and we see that all the earth comes to Egypt, to Joseph, to buy grain, because the famine was so severe over all the earth. Now, there's many more details in here, more than we can talk about in this short video, but we see that God is working in Joseph's life. This is not what we would expect. And I'm not trying to tell you that you're going to turn out to be a Joseph, that if you're going through a hard circumstance today, that suddenly you're going to be on top and you're going to be second in command and you're going to be blessed and all that sort of thing. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying that the same God who is working in Joseph's life is working in your life as well. God has not forgotten you, and God has a plan for you, and I encourage you to keep trusting God even in the midst of difficult circumstances, because we serve the same God that Joseph served. Here's a summary of today's reading. For more information, go to tunemyheart.org.